Hey there, viewers. This might be the most disturbing Beyonce story we've ever covered. A late-night live stream appeared without warning, and what it showed had fans deleting their apps, smashing their phones, and swearing they heard something after. Stay with us, because once you hear it, it might already be too late. Chapter 1. The feed that wasn't on the call sheet. I'm not a journalist, I'm not a whistleblower or a conspiracy theorist or even some crazy stan trying to make a name for herself. My name's Jamila Grant, and I do back-end compression and network monitoring for live events. That's it. That's what I've always done, so whatever you're expecting from this story, just understand, I didn't go looking for any of this. It found me. The Houston job came in through a contact I'd worked with at a Travis Scott show a year back. Said Parkwood Entertainment needed someone fast, someone quiet, someone local. It was short notice, but the rate was excellent. I was told the gig would mostly be backstage bandwidth monitoring, making sure no feed lagged, no camera went out midstream, and all the internal files made it from the warehouse uplink to the Parkwood archive in Los Angeles. Nothing public, nothing sensitive, just plug in, compress, log, and stay out the way. When I showed up at NRG Stadium the morning of June 28th, I didn't even have a badge with my name on it, just a generic laminate that said Tech D Red. I was escorted down a service tunnel, then up a metal stairwell that rattled every time someone walked on it. The room they gave me wasn't even a room, just a small booth with a folding chair, a land drop, and a network tower labeled in tape, Parkwood, Uplink, property of Beck. A label so large it looked property of East. The tech supervisor, an older guy named Carl, handed me a sealed packet and said, "Read it, sign it. Don't ask anything you don't absolutely have to." Inside were 3 NDAs, one from Live Nation, one from Parkwood, and one with no letterhead, just a symbol printed in gold ink, a kind of looped circle with a vertical slash through it. Looked like an old music note, or maybe a stylized eye. At the bottom it said, "Confidentiality Agreement, Re. Ocean Audio Architecture Firmware version 12.9. That's the first time I saw that word, Ocean. I didn't know then that it meant anything. I just assumed it was some internal code name for the routing software they used. Most major artists have their own in-house stacks these days. Hybrid cloud hardware, biometric permissions, all that. Beyonce's setup was just more locked down than most. The uplink router had no external ports. You couldn't even plug in a flash drive. Everything had to be air-gapped, filtered and mirrored through one read-only node. That's what I was there to watch. The show itself was incredible. Even from backstage, you could feel the stadium shake when she performed 16 carriages. The crowd went wild when the red convertible was lowered from above the stage, that massive Cadillac shell with the glittered wheels and white leather seats. But it stalled halfway down and kind of hung there for a second. There was a pause, a beat too long, and then the lights shifted and everything moved forward. Most people probably thought it was intentional. I didn't think anything of it either, not yet. After the final bow, my shift was supposed to end. My logs were clean. All 12 camera feeds had synced and stored, no loss, no drops. I was just starting to pack up when something weird flickered on my screen. A stream. One I hadn't seen in the index before, popped up for exactly 3 seconds and then vanished. I reloaded the matrix. Nothing. But a few minutes later it came back. This time it had a title, oil_ring_augs_323. That's oil_ring_augs_323 for anyone listening. It wasn't on the call sheet, wasn't in the patch table either. None of the other camera nodes had that ID. I ran a quick trace, thinking maybe it was a misnamed loopback or a private rehearsal cache, but the timecode was real, and the stream was live. I should have reported it, I know that, but curiosity got the better of me. I ran a mirror and opened the viewer. The feed was grainy, like an old security cam, low frame rate, slow pan. It showed the prop warehouse, the one beneath the stage, where they store backup rigging and lighting gear. The lights were dimmed except for one overhead lamp casting a perfect circle on the concrete floor. And inside that circle was her, Beyonce, standing dead center, alone. She wasn't dressed for a show anymore. Her hair was up, wrapped in a gold cloth. She wore a long, flowing robe, deep maroon, with what looked like embroidered sunbursts across the back. She didn't look at the camera. She didn't speak. She hummed. 4 notes, descending, soft, steady, over and over. I couldn't make out the pitch exactly. The feed's compression made the audio unstable, but my spectrum analyzer showed something weird. The peaks were sharp, but beneath them, at a level around -30 decibels, there was a second signal. Whispered. I couldn't hear it. Not exactly, but when I slowed the recording, the text display began trying to interpret it. The analyzer filled with fragments. Say, it. Say, it. At the edge of the frame, a man stepped forward. Stagehand, maybe. He wore a dark hoodie and gloves. In one hand, he held a small tin canister. He knelt, unscrewed the lid, and began sprinkling something around the circle. It looked like ash, but blacker. He moved with precision, like he'd done this before. The overhead engine light on the Cadillac prob blinked on, even though the car was still suspended from the rig above. It hovered, motionless, wheels pointed down at her like a crown or a compass. The red finish glinted in the dull light. Then, Beyonce raised her hand. She stopped humming. The stagehand froze. She looked up, not at him, not at the car, at me, dead center right into the lens. I don't know how I knew she was looking at me through that feed. I just felt it, like the space between the camera and the screen collapsed, and I tried to stop the stream. It wouldn't close. I tried to pause, mute, anything. Nothing worked. Then, without warning, the feed cut to black. Just like that, I opened my file tree. The temp directory where all the feed mirrors should have been stored was gone. Completely empty. But then I saw a new folder. It hadn't been there before, no creation timestamp, just a name. Thanks_J. Inside was one image. It was a still frame from the video. Beyonce looking into the lens, one hand raised, mouth closed. Her eyes looked darker in the photo, like they were in shadow, or the contrast was wrong. I tried to delete the folder. It wouldn't let me. Said the files were in use even though nothing was running. I disconnected from the router entirely, still wouldn't delete. I powered off the machine, unplugged everything, packed it up, and left the stadium without saying a word. That was 2 weeks ago. Since then, every time I turn on that laptop, even offline, that folder reappears. Sometimes they are new files. Sometimes the still image blinks. I've worked hundreds of shows, monitored terabytes of data. I've seen backstage fights, bad rehearsals, full-on tech meltdowns. But I have never, not once, seen something like that. The worst part? I don't know what she said. I don't know if I heard it wrong, or if it was meant for someone else, or if that whisper was even human. All I know is the time on the feed, 3:23 a.m. The exact same time my phone buzzes, now every single night. No notifications, no messages, just a low, pulsing vibration. Like a hum, like the one she sang, Double Voice Friday. It didn't start as a conspiracy, just a weird clip from a concert. 15-second video posted by a fan who'd been up in the 300-level seats at Beyonce's Cowboy Carter show in Houston. The video wasn't anything new at first. We'd all seen the moment live on the Jumbotron when something went wrong with the red convertible prop. It was mid-drop, hovering over the stage, when it suddenly jerked and stopped. Beyonce turned to her crew off stage and shouted something. You couldn't really hear what she said in the moment, not with the music and crowds screaming. But this clip, it picked up her voice, somehow clean. She says, "Bring it down, stop the tilt." That's all. Except, when someone slowed the video to half speed, her voice split. It was still her shouting, same pitch, same rhythm, but underneath it, layered like a harmony no one asked for, there was something else. A second voice, much deeper, slower, dragging, saying the same thing but warped, drawn out, not an echo, not reverb. A second voice speaking at the exact same time. The first Reddit post about it was casual. A user called Tofat Scott 8 uploaded it to r/popcultureconspiracies and wrote, does anyone else hear a demon in this Beyonce clip, or am I just on too much Adderall? The comments exploded in hours. People started uploading their own slowdown versions, pitch-shifted versions. One user ran it through a plugin that isolates harmonics, and the audio data lit up in two separate bands. One high, crisp, very human. The other low, muddy, almost infrasound. Everyone said the same thing. There were two voices in the same throat. And then someone, I think it was a TikTok account named at CyberWifey, did a side-by-side with the 2017 Grammys performance. The one where Beyonce was fully pregnant, wearing that gold sun-crown headpiece and standing on the tilting throne. You know the one. In that show, there's a chant behind her opening sequence. You don't really think much of it when you hear it live. Just sounds like art, texture. But at CyberWifey isolated it, slowed it, and compared it to the Bring It Down clip. It was identical, different words, same rhythm, same breath pattern, same layered tone. This was the moment the thread broke containment. More users from r/sound design and r/audio forensics jumped in. Someone uploaded a spectrogram view. That's where you can see sound, in a way, like how sonar maps look, and in the frame where both voices overlap, the waveform formed a shape. At first, it just looked like a blur, but when someone outlined the peaks, it looked like a face. Not perfectly human, not clear, more like a baby's ultrasound or an ink blot. But it had eyes, a mouth, a suggestion of a nose, and the peaks near the cheeks flared just like Beyonce's 2017 Sunray headpiece. Few people laughed it off, called it pareidolia, seeing patterns where there aren't any. But the deeper fans weren't laughing. Someone dug through a private Beyonce fan Discord and dropped an old theory that had been floating around for years, that Beyonce's daughter's name, Blue Ivy, wasn't random, that it stood for something. Born living under evil, Illuminati's very youngest. It was a meme once, years ago, but now it resurfaced with a darker edge. What if Blue Ivy wasn't just symbolic? What if the name meant she was next in line for whatever this was? Another commenter pointed out something strange. The deeper voice in the slowed-down clip wasn't just low. It sounded like it had been pitch-shifted downward, like it had originally been recorded higher. In a child's range. Think about it, one post said. What if the second voice is Blue Ivy's, reversed, pitched down to sound older, deeper, harder, and Beyonce is just miming it forward? People started theorizing that Beyonce was acting as a vessel, that some of her most iconic performances were actually synced over another person's voice, maybe even her daughter's, and we'd never noticed, because the audio was masked, hidden in harmonics, protected by frequency overlap. That's when the TikTok videos really started blowing up. Dozens of users began making stitch clips with the Houston audio. Some tried to mimic the voice, others tried to recreate the waveform face, But after about a day, something weird happened. People started posting that they were hearing things. Not during the day, not when watching the clip. At night, specifically at 3:23 a guy named It's Kidon again posted a teary-eyed video from his bed, saying his ears started ringing at exactly that time. His phone lit up even though he didn't have any alarm set. The video file he'd saved from Beyonce's clip, the one he'd downloaded from Reddit and edited in CapCut, had renamed itself overnight. He didn't touch it. The new name? Say it. All caps, no extension, no timestamp. He tried to upload a screen recording to prove it, but TikTok flagged it for violating community audio policies. So he deleted everything, deleted the video, deleted his app. But the ringing didn't stop. Another user posted something similar. She said she saved the slowed down audio as a ringtone, as a joke. But when someone called her at 3:23 in the morning, the sound didn't play. Instead, her speaker buzzed, like feedback, like static, and her screen went blank. Not black, not powered off. Blank white. Just white, she said, like someone was erasing the background before they repainted it. At this point, Reddit started compiling reports. Users began dropping stories of weird tech failures. Spotify wrapped screenshots where their top track of the week was listed as Unknown Track 0. Descriptions like, no lyrics, 0 minutes 23 seconds. A few people said they didn't even remember listening to it. The user named Trustful Guy uploaded a short clip of his MacBook desktop recording. He was screen-grabbing a waveform, one of the slowed Beyonce clips. And while dragging the file, the name shifted mid-movement. It went from Houston_audio_final to breathe_W_me in real time. He played the clip again and said the voice sounded different, softer, closer. He deleted the post within the hour. Then the moderators of the subreddit posted a sticky message. We are currently reviewing recent submissions due to an unusual amount of flagged content. Please do not engage with any posts that contain isolated audio files or external download links. If you hear both voices, close the app. That message was signed by one of the head mods, a user who had been active for years, always replying to threads about celebrity tech, sound design, music theory. Their account disappeared the next day. No trace. Comment history wiped. Not banned, not suspended, just gone. They finally figured out he was killed, but never took off. And then the theft scandal. And last year, their account disappeared the next day. Some people assumed it was burnout. Some said it was legal pressure. A few said it was coincidence. But no one could explain why the archived thread showed a deletion time of exactly 3:23 a.m. I'm not saying everyone believes this stuff. A lot of people still think it's an ARG, an alternate reality game, or a TikTok stunt to boost views. But the files are real. The timestamps are real. And once you hear it, really hear both voices, something sticks with you. You keep listening for it. In other songs, in interviews, in random footage of Beyonce walking past cameras. You wonder if it's been there the whole time, just under the surface. Under her voice, under yours. You wonder if it's waiting to sing through you next. Chapter 3. 5 hard drives and a car alarm. The call came in just after 7 in the morning. I was already on shift, filing paperwork on a string of catalytic converter thefts when dispatch flagged a new case. Break-in at a hotel garage downtown. High professional victim, possibly linked to touring equipment. I grabbed my jacket and headed straight there. By the time I arrived at the W Midtown parking structure, the vehicle was already taped off. A black Jeep Wagoneer with California plates, rear passenger window shattered, glass everywhere. A duffel bag on the ground, unzipped, empty. The owner was pacing by the curb, in sunglasses and a long hoodie, even though it was already 80 degrees out. Christopher Grant. The name hit immediately. Longtime dancer and choreographer, worked with Beyonce for over a decade. I'd seen his name in credits before, but never in a police report. He was calm. Too calm, if I'm being honest. He told me 5 external hard drives were taken. Nothing else. Not the charger, not the laptop, not even the clothes. Just the drives. All of them labeled and stacked inside a padded case that now looked like it had been surgically opened. Zipper sliced clean. No mess. I asked if there were any backups. He said no. I asked what was on the drives. He looked at me, then said, and I remember this word for word: show set lists, performance choreography files, and past ritual work. I pause. Ritual work? I repeated. He blinked. Rehearsals, formation blocks, light cues, that kind of stuff. Rehearsals, formation blocks, light cues, that kind of stuff. He wasn't fooling anyone. We reviewed the garage cameras, grainy footage, but enough to make out a single figure in a dark windbreaker entering the garage just after 3:00 a.m. They walked straight to Grant's vehicle, didn't hesitate, opened the passenger door like they already knew it was unlocked, then moved to the back. The alarm never went off. They walked away with 2 suitcases, one of them clearly the padded gear case we later recovered. And yes, we did recover it. That part happened fast. Grant had left a pair of AirPods in the duffel bag. When he pinged them through Find My, it gave us a hit, an abandoned warehouse near the old Pullman rail yards on the east side. It got there before backup. The place was empty. No signs of forced entry, just a broken padlock and a dirt path leading in. Inside, scattered papers, an overturned folding chair, and the 2 suitcases. Left side by side in the middle of the room, like someone had second thoughts about carrying them out. The gear case was empty. The other suitcase contained, not clothes. He held a series of handwritten notes, diagrams, show light plots labeled in layers, stage A, stage B, halo position, oil ring, midpoint. A few printed emails between someone listed as KM and R, discussing clearing frequencies for final mixdown, and a black USB thumb drive taped to the back of a page labeled Thank You Index. The tape was cracked, probably from the heat. We bagged it and sent everything to lab processing, but I couldn't help myself. I had the tech guy make me a copy. That's how I ended up listening to the file. The file was short, 23 seconds long. No label, no metadata, just one long, flat waveform. When I played it on the station desktop, nothing came out at first, just silence. But when I boosted the game and ran a spectrogram on it, I saw something. Not heard. Saw. The waveform wasn't flat after all. Buried inside the silence were low-frequency pulses, too faint for the average speaker, but there, like breathing. No pattern I could recognize, just inhale, exhale, then a pause, and in that pause the frequency lines arranged themselves into something that looked almost handwritten. 4 capital letters, smeared like chalk dust but still readable. SAYIT. I showed it to one of the guys from cybercrimes. He thought it was a prank or some sort of embedded test file, but when he tried to copy the wave, the drive locked up, prompted a password box. We tried the usual admin, 0, Parkwood. None worked. Then I noticed something in the original case file from the warehouse. One of the notebook pages had a staff notation drawn on it. 4 notes. C#A G E. I typed those in. The file unlocked. Except it didn't lead to a folder. It led to a prompt. Just a blank field with a blinking cursor and the words, "Thank you." We closed the window, didn't enter anything. That same afternoon, a legal team showed up. 2 men and 1 woman, all in Navy suits with no visible IDs, said they were from Parkwood Corporate Affairs, asked to review the evidence log and requested all physical materials and digital copies be turned over. They had a document, not a warrant, not a court order, just a memo that claimed national security level protections under a private clause of the Federal Creative Properties Act. I'd never heard of that act. I asked our supervisor, and neither had she. Still, my chief told me to cooperate. I handed over the physical materials. But I didn't tell them about the copy. That night, I went home, cracked open a beer, and tried to forget about it. Until 3:23 a.m. That's when my smart speaker, cheap knockoff brand, not even connected to Wi-Fi, clicked on by itself. I didn't even realize it was plugged in. I hadn't used it in months. There was no voice command, no prompt, just silence. Same 23-second silence I'd heard before. And under it, faint, but now unmistakable, that same breath pattern. That same phrase, if you could even call it that. Not spoken, but felt. Say. I unplugged the speaker, removed the battery, threw it in the trash. But the next morning I checked my laptop. The file was still there, only now it had renamed itself. LESA_grant_final_ALYSA_GRANT. I don't know what it means. I don't know who else has a copy. But I know this, that file wasn't just stolen. It was delivered, and I don't think it wants to stay quiet. Chapter 4. Kimberly Thompson's Black Binder. I've interviewed a lot of people, priests, makeup artists, former stylists, security guards who once walked the edge of the stage during halftime shows. I've heard it all. Fame, trauma, cover-ups, breakdowns, and the occasional ghost story. But I had never seen anything like what landed in my inbox on July 12th. No subject line, just an email from a burner address. 1 sentence. The binder is real, I have it. Meet me in New Orleans. I stared at it for a long time. I wasn't even sure who I was, but something in my gut told me it was connected to the research I'd started months ago. A story I'd nearly shelved. Back in 2018, Beyonce's former drummer, Kimberly Thompson, filed a restraining order against her. It was quickly dismissed, barely made headlines. But the wording in that original complaint always stayed with me. She accused Beyonce of using, quote, extreme witchcraft, tapping her phones, killing her kitten, and performing, quote, dark magic spells of sexual molestation. Everyone laughed it off at the time, except I requested the court filings multiple times, denied every time, sealed by joint agreement, they told me, for privacy. And now someone was offering the source. I flew to New Orleans the next morning. The person waiting at the bar wasn't who I expected. Mid-40s, denim jacket, press badge tucked in her purse. A local courthouse clerk who asked me not to name her. She'd worked in filings and exhibits for over a decade, said she found it in a purge box. One of those deep star lawyer's boxes until a lawyer dies or a floor floods. She slid the binder across the table like it was radioactive. Black faux leather. No title. No stickers, no labels. Just a smudge on the corner like something burned into it. The initials KT barely visible on the inner flap. Inside were 34 printed pages, 12 handwritten ones, and a clear plastic sleeve with 6 photos. The first section was Kimberly's formal restraining order petition. That part I'd seen in excerpts, but the language hit different when reading it in full. She accused Beyonce of orchestrating an, quote, advanced audio-based spiritual attack performed nightly between 2 and 4 a.m. She detailed ritual behavior, burning sage in reverse, whispered incantations during rehearsals, and a pattern of phantom percussion she claimed echoed behind live drums, matching no known sequence. She wrote, "It feels like she's playing something under the beat, something that I'm not hearing through my ears, but through my spine." And then came the more graphic stuff. Kimberly said she found her cat dead in her apartment, eyes removed and paws laid in a crescent shape on the floor. No signs of forced entry, no blood, just a smell. She described it as melted plastic and honey. She claimed Beyonce had cast a cloaking veil during her private sound checks, where words are sung not for the crowd, but for the watcher. She never explained who or what the watcher was. By the time I hit page 12, my hands were shaking. But it wasn't until I reached the light plots that everything started to come together. Tucked between the handwritten pages was a folded schematic. Stage blueprints. Not just for one show, it included multiple versions, Formation Tour, On the Run 2, and the most recent, Cowboy Carter, Houston. I recognized the setup instantly, catwalk stretching out into a rounded thrust, large rig suspended overhead. What struck me was the note in the margin, center node equals apex/1-1 pentagram alignment. I overlaid the blueprint on my laptop and traced the lines. 5 core positions, 1 at each stage corner, 1 in the center. Each one matched a major lighting rig in the Houston show. And, if you connected them, a perfect 5-pointed star. The red Cadillac prop, the one that malfunctioned, hung directly above the apex point. I stared at the diagram for an hour. It wasn't just good staging, it was designed for something. Aligned, measured, intentional. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was looking at a map, not a show. The next section of the binder was written in thick marker on yellow legal pad paper. The handwriting looked frantic, but every note mentioned one thing. Oshun. Oh, that name again. Oshun is the Yoruba goddess of love, beauty, and fertility. I'd heard her referenced before in Beyonce's art, especially during her 2017 Grammys performance. The flowing gold robe, the sunburst crown, the chalice. But what Kimberly suggested went way past homage. She wrote that Beyonce had, quote, invoked Oshun not symbolically but actually, through chant, through alignment, through harmonic convergence of sound, metal, and audience attention, end quote. When Beyonce forgave us a chance to talk, she claimed that in certain songs the vocals followed a coded progression tied to Yoruba invocations, specific intervals that weren't about music theory but spiritual keys. The sequence she mentioned, E#AGE, the exact same 4 notes shown in the police file Alyssa Moreno had decrypted in Atlanta. I didn't know Alyssa then, of course, but later, when I compared the files we both had, the connections were undeniable. Kimberly had circled that sequence on a page with a note, "This unlocks her." And then I found the photos. 6 images, slightly faded. One was a wide shot of a recording studio. I recognized the Parkwood East location from old promotional material. In the middle of the floor was a wide gold circle, about 8 feet in diameter, perfectly symmetrical, carved into the wood. Another photo zoomed in on the circle's edge, etched symbols, not English, not Latin, curved, looping marks. I sent them to a language historian later, who confirmed they were Yoruba glyphs, often used in ceremonial floor patterns for fertility rites. One photo was blurry but unmistakable. Beyonce, pregnant in a long gold gown, standing barefoot in the circle, hands at her sides, eyes closed. It wasn't a performance shot. There was no stage, no lighting. It looked like a private ritual. And the final photo was just a shadow, her silhouette cast across the circle from behind, but something about the angle made the shadow look longer, taller. And the head, it didn't have hair. It had points. 7 of them. I closed the binder. My hands were sweating. I didn't know what I was looking at, whether this was performance art gone too far, or something else entirely. But I knew it needed to be shared. I went home, pulled up my stream software, and queued up a new episode. I titled it, "The Binder Beyonce Doesn't Want You to See." I stacked the visuals, the diagrams, the glyphs, the chant notes. I preloaded everything into the slideshow. I clicked to start the preview, checked my mic, and hit record. That's when the error message popped up. EBS audio input, mic not authorized. I unplugged and plugged it back in. Nothing. Checked my system settings. Everything was fine. Then the screen flashed. The error changed. Say it first. And then it disappeared. Chapter 5. Car above, hive below. I've rigged dozens of shows. Super Bowl halftime, Coachella main stage, full Vegas residencies. I've worked with crews that could drop a 10-ton set piece through a 6-foot gap without touching a thing. But the Beyonce show in Houston was the first time I ever felt like I wasn't the one controlling the gear. My name's Mateo Diaz. I was the secondary harness tech for the Cowboy Carter rigging team, 3rd Tower, East Wing. We handled overhead lifts, lighting arrays, and of course, the red Cadillac. That car. They told us the prop was meant to descend slowly during the performance of 16 carriages. It would start in darkness above the main catwalk and lower on cue, headlights flickering in time with the beat. Beyonce would stand center stage underneath it as the wheels rotated slightly above her head, kind of like a glowing crown, visual metaphor, elevated Americana. We spent 4 days aligning it to the inch. The file we used to control it was named Carter.Ascend, standard naming convention. It mapped out motor speeds, descent angles, tilt caps, and fallback halt positions in case of power drop or unexpected obstruction. We ran 5 successful tests the day before the show. Nothing was wrong with the lift. But during the live show, everything changed. I was up in the 3rd tower when we got the cue to deploy. Crowd was already going wild, smoke machines pumping, stage lights strobing. At first, the descent was smooth, exactly on cue. We hit the 30-foot mark, then 25. Then the wheels began to rotate. That wasn't programmed. No one entered a command for wheel spin. I radioed Tower 2 to confirm axis stability, but before they could reply, the rig jolted. Hard. Not a power surge, not a failure. It pivoted, tilted 35 degrees left. The whole car shifted. The suspension moaned. The crowd gasped. Beyonce, right below it, didn't flinch. She reached up, gripped the safety cable that ran down from the catwalk, and looked straight up into the light. I didn't know what to do. Protocol said to engage the emergency brake and halt the descent. But before I could input anything, something else came through the comms line. A voice. Not Beyonce. Not crew. A voice I didn't recognize. Calm. hollow. It said, "Hold her there." Just that. And suddenly, the brakes locked. The car froze midair, tilted, engines glowing under red paint like hot metal. And the underlighting? That wide golden glow we installed as a visual accent flared brighter than we'd ever tested. It hit the stage like a spotlight. No, like a ring, a full circle of gold on the floor, surrounding her body perfectly. I heard gasps in the crowd again, but this time they weren't loud. They were hushed, like they didn't want to speak too loudly, like something told them not to. And Beyonce. She didn't speak. She didn't sing. She stood dead still. One hand on the cable, the other at her side, inside the light. The music faded out for a second, a beat of silence. Then it resumed. The car tilted back slowly into place. No cue was given. No one touched the control pad. I looked down at my tablet. It had exited the Carter.ascend file and was now displaying a new screen I hadn't seen before. One wide. Oil_ring_augs_323. I recognized that from chatter backstage, a hidden stream, some kind of private feed from the warehouse. Nobody was supposed to be connected to it from rigging. I tried to shut the tablet off, but the interface froze. And in the reflection of the dark screen, I swear I saw someone standing behind me. But I was alone in the tower. I didn't say anything that night. After the show, the team gathered in Staging Bay 3 for breakdown. Beyonce's team released a short statement to the press. Standard safety pause due to a temporary tilt sensor malfunction. They even blamed the Texas humidity. We all knew that wasn't true. I tried to go back and pull the video from my helmet cam. We wear GoPros for insurance and liability tracking during setup and show hours. But the footage was gone. I mean, completely gone. Not corrupted, not fragmented. Gone. All that was left was a single, still image. One frame. Beyonce, directly below the Cadillac. Her mouth closed. Her eyes. Not looking at the crowd. Not at us. At the camera. She had her hand over the mic. Like she was saying something. But she didn't want it recorded. The file name on the frame was changed, too. Not the usual time code. Just 4 words. Hide above, hold below. I don't know what that means. I tried to bring it up in the group chat later, but no one replied. One guy left the chat, another blocked me. 2 days later, I emailed the vendor coordinator and said I was stepping down from tour work. Said it was personal, no questions asked. They sent my final paycheck through direct deposit, along with a small padded envelope. No return address, no note inside, just a yellow post-it with 5 words written in perfect black pen. Thank you for holding. Not until now, 'cause I don't think I was holding the car. I think I was holding the moment still, and I think that's what she needed. Chapter 6, Algorithmic Mercy. You never expect something massive to happen on a Wednesday. Wednesdays at Loop are dead. I usually spend them flagging copyright overlap for viral sound remixes or cross-tagging dance trends with mislabeled metadata so the AI can clean it up in version push. I'm Noor Abbasi, junior data analyst at Loop, the short-form video platform that's always being compared to TikTok but insists it's nothing like TikTok. Internally, we call it the cleaner cousin. Less chaotic, more moderation, more curated partner content. It's all very controlled. And that's why I noticed it when it wasn't. That morning, I was working through my daily tag funnel when I started seeing a spike in uploads that weren't supposed to exist. They were labeled under things like Say It, Beehive Glitch, and 2 voices. Normally, when something blows up like that, some choreography or a mashup, it spikes clean, clusters, and drops off. This one didn't. It posted. Every few hours, it would vanish. Hundreds of videos, just gone. Then new ones would take their place. Different users, different formats, but always the same general theme. A slowed-down clip of Beyonce's Houston performance, specifically the part where she shouts, "Bring it down," the same phrase everyone's been dissecting online because of the supposed second voice. But this wasn't just a moderation sweep. These videos weren't being flagged for the usual things like inappropriate content or audio reuse. They were being auto-muted, and not just muted, replaced with loops stock ambient sound, the kind we use for filler when a clip has no music. It wasn't possible. Not without manual approval. So I dug into the logs. What I found was a moderation flag I'd never seen before. Impersonation of Beyonce. At first I thought it was a joke, like maybe someone had submitted a fake report that the clips were deepfakes or voice clones. We've had a few cases where AI mimicry triggered content takedowns, but it's rare. Usually it's people mimicking celebrities in obvious ways. Satire, parody, stuff that gets reviewed manually. But these clips? They weren't impersonations. Most of them didn't even have Beyonce's face or voice. Some were just black screens with slowed audio of those 4 infamous notes. Still, every time one was uploaded, it got flagged. I cross-referenced the flag ID in our backend. The rule set was labeled blue_IV_V1. All caps, no description. Just a build number and a timestamp, April 22nd, 2023. I knew that name. Everyone did. The old Illuminati rumor, the acronym, born living under evil, Illuminati's very youngest. I'd seen the memes back in the day, never gave them much thought. But here it was, inside the platform code. I messaged my lead dev in Slack. "Hey, do you know what this flag set is? blue_IV_V1. He didn't reply, but 10 minutes later I got a private message from a system bot, one of the ones we use to test AI integrations. It wasn't supposed to send messages. Ever. It said, "Some voices aren't user-generated. Do not tag them." I stared at the screen. That wasn't even a system error response. That was a sentence. A warning. I copied the string and dropped it into the system command log to search for any triggers linked to it. The response came back with 2 references, both buried in legacy moderation scripts from the first version of Loop, back when it was still in beta. One of the entries said, "silence_on_recognition true. Applied when harmonic overlap exceeds authorized template." That didn't make sense. Harmonic overlap? That's not language we use for moderation. That's audio engineering or spiritual chanting. I thought of the videos again. The whisper track under the Beyonce clip, the rumors of coded messages and spectrograms, the face-shaped waveform people said they'd seen when they slowed it down. I had to test it myself. I opened Audacity, created a blank track, inserted a sine wave at the same 4-note pattern people had talked about, C#, A, G, E. I didn't even use Beyonce's clip, just tones, pure sound. Uploaded it to my test account, titled test_audio_sweep. 7 seconds later, the account was deleted. No warning, no appeal, not even a notification email. Gone. I tried again with a dummy profile, uploaded the same clip under a new name. Deleted in 5 seconds. I started to panic. I'd never seen the system do that, especially not on flagged test content. Worse, my Slack account froze. I was booted out mid-message. The admin panel logged me out. My Loop dashboard returned a red error message I'd never seen before. "Request denied. You do not have permission to impersonate her." Not this account, not this file, her. I shut my laptop and tried to walk it off. Maybe it was a system bug. Maybe someone was messing with me. That night, I checked my personal email. Nothing. Then I opened my phone. There was a new message. Encrypted. No sender. The app that delivered it didn't exist on my phone before. It looked like a dark modal terminal screen. One line. Control the algorithm or it controls you. Then, a second line appeared beneath it. Meet 323-23. I didn't sleep that night. And at exactly 3:23 a.m., my phone lit up, not with a sound, not with a ringtone, just a silent, full white screen with a blinking cursor in the middle. The sound screen reads, text, voice, stress. I watched it for 23 seconds. Then it disappeared. No notification, no history. Just one saved photo in my gallery I know I didn't. It was a screenshot of my Audacity file, the one I'd made myself, except the waveform had changed. D1 had a shape, and the shape was looking back at me. Chapter 7. Erasure Protocol. I never planned on disappearing. I wasn't trying to run. It's just that after what happened, everything that made me feel like a person started breaking in little quiet ways. First, it was the bank account. I went to log in and got flagged for name mismatch. I'd been using the same account for 8 years, but now the system said I wasn't Jamila Grant. I called customer support, sat on hold for 43 minutes, only to have someone tell me politely that they couldn't verify my identity. My social didn't match. My name wasn't in their database. That's when I checked my license. I swear on everything it had always said my full name, but now the card read J, with the rest of the letters glitched out. Not scratched, not smudged, glitched. Like a screen that failed to load. I'd printed that license myself at the DMV kiosk. I remember holding it. I remember checking the spelling, but there it was, sitting in my hand like a fake memory. Emails stopped delivering after that. Then job inquiries. A freelance client I'd worked with for years replied to a follow-up saying, "I don't know who this is." That's when I left. I packed everything I owned into a rental car and drove until the GPS stopped syncing. I found a cheap cabin outside Bastrop. No Wi-Fi, no cell reception unless I drove 2 miles out to the old gas station near the post office. The isolation felt safer, even if it made me feel like I was losing my mind. But after a week, I couldn't take the silence. I had to know if the warehouse was still there. The one from the night of the stream. The one I saw Beyonce in. I needed to see it in daylight. Needed to be sure it wasn't just a soundstage my brain had invented under stress. So I went back. NRG Stadium looked the same from the outside. Buses pulling in, fans taking selfies, billboards still cycling ads from the Cowboy Carter tour. I walked around the back service entrance, the same tunnel I'd used with the Red Tech badge. The security booth was manned by someone new, or maybe I just didn't remember his face. I gave him a name, mine, and told him I'd worked here during the Houston leg, compression routing, live uplink. He frowned and tapped on his screen. "Don't see a grant in the logs," he said. "I had temporary clearance," I told him. He shook his head. "No record of any freelance tech on file for June 28th. Whole thing was handled by internal team." I asked about the warehouse under the east wing. He looked confused. "Don't think we used that space. Prop storage was off-site." I didn't press him further. I waited until his shift changed and walked the perimeter. Found an old delivery gate that hadn't been locked right. It creaked when I slipped through, but no alarms, no lights. Inside, the air was stale, dry. The warehouse looked smaller than I remembered, but the layout was the same. Concrete floor, high rafters. Some rigging tracks still bolted into the beams. And on the floor, faint, almost erased, were outlines. Not paint, not marker, more like residue, a ring of dark resin that had melted into the concrete, just visible under the right angle of light. I stepped inside the circle. The space felt wrong, like sound didn't travel the same way, like my footsteps didn't echo back to me in the time they should. I didn't hear anything, not at first, but as I stood there, I got the feeling of vibration. Not on the surface, not a tremor, but in my chest. A low hum. Not a sound you can record. Just something your ribs respond to. That's when I saw her. Not Beyonce, nor. She was standing near the door, clutching a hard drive. Pale, shaking, she looked like someone who'd been yelled at by the universe. We didn't need to explain much. She knew what I'd seen. I knew what she'd tried to do. We sat on a crate and exchanged evidence like we were trading ghost stories. She showed me the loop deletion logs, her test accounts getting wiped in seconds, the impersonation of Beyonce flag, the encrypted message she got telling her to meet at 3:23. I showed her my GoPro still frame, the one I found in my folder after the stream vanished, the one of Beyonce with her hand over the mic. Both images had something in common we hadn't noticed before. In the background of each, a blur, the same blur, like a person, like a shadow in motion just outside the light. We didn't talk about what that meant. Instead, we decided to try something. We had a camera. Nor had her phone set to airplane mode. I had my external mic unplugged, resting on a wooden spool. We each took a turn stepping into the ring, looking at the camera, and whispering one sentence. "Thank you, Beyonce." No drama, no chant, just the words. The recording saved to her phone. We didn't preview it right away. We drove out to the post office and connected to Wi-Fi. When we opened the file, it was gone. Not deleted. Replaced. The clip now played 23 seconds of static, but not white noise. It had rhythm, a pulse. Underneath it you could hear the exact same breath loop Alyssa Moreno described in her report. Inhale. Pause. Exhale, then silence. Nor checked her phone gallery. Her last photo, the waveform we'd just tried to film, had renamed itself. THANKS_J_N.MP4. She didn't name it that. She didn't name it anything. We didn't talk after that. We left the warehouse, drove back in silence. At night, I locked all the doors to the cabin and pulled the curtains tight. I unplugged every outlet, turned off my laptop, powered down the lights. I sat in the dark, alone. At 3:23 a.m., something tapped the window. Just once. Like someone checking. I didn't look. I waited. When the sun came up, I found a manila envelope slipped under the cabin door. No return address, no stamps. Inside was a single photograph. The same still frame. Beyonce looking into the camera. And across the bottom, in red marker, someone had written, "Date Live, Chapter 8. The unspooled camera. At exactly 3:23 IEM, something moved on a screen that hadn't changed in years. Parkwood Entertainment's official YouTube channel, dormant since the Cowboy Carter rollout, lit up with a red circle, live. No countdown, no teaser, no promotion. Just the title. The dash didn't link anywhere. No description, no tags, just a black screen for the first 5 seconds. Then it faded up. A studio, not a stage, not a sound booth. It looked half-built, the kind of space you use for rehearsal or storage. A flat concrete floor, no chairs, no audience. Just Beyonce. She sat cross-legged in the middle of a wide gold circle drawn directly onto the floor, same size, same shape as the one from the warehouse. The oil ring. Her hair was tied back, and she wore a long gray robe, simple and plain. No makeup, no jewelry, no backup dancers. The only light came from above. A soft, pulsing glow. Slowly, silently, was the red Cadillac convertible. The same prop from the Houston show. It hovered like a crown, casting a moving ring of shadow around her as it turned. She wasn't singing. Not at first. She was humming. The same 4 notes. Low, steady, descending. Every time she hummed, the live chat exploded. Dozens of messages per second. Then hundreds. What is this? Why am I awake? Is this live? Bro, look at the floor. Every hum triggered a spike. The chat feed would lag, then burst forward again. One note, then a pause, then the next. Some users typed timestamps. Others tried to identify the notes. C#, A, G, E. Those who knew the pattern from earlier chapters. The ones who'd seen the theories, the waveform face, the whisperers, recognized it instantly. But then something changed. The screen split. The live stream frame divided in half, then into quarters, then eighths, then dozens. Each new panel showed viewers, real viewers, webcam feeds. Some showed people staring blankly at their screens, others asleep in bed, lit by a faint glow. Some feeds appeared to be from mobile cameras, still and pointed at ceilings or desk corners. But none of them had consented. No prompts, no permissions. The cameras had just turned on. At the center of the screen, Beyonce continued humming. Around her, the spectrogram lines began to shift. Not just up and down, but outward, in circles, pentagons, then 5 sharp points. A pentagram. It glowed faintly across the screen like a watermark. Exactly the same formation as Kimberly Thompson's binder diagrams. Behind her, the cars under light flickered. On, off, on, syncing perfectly with the chat lag spikes. Then another layer entered the audio. A voice. Not Beyonce's. Detective Alyssa Marino, reading from her original case notes. His file was 23 seconds, no label, just breath. Inhale, pause, exhale, then say it. The hum didn't stop. Her voice folded into the tone, blending into the sound like it had always been part of the music. At the same moment, Reddit avatars, hundreds of them, began glitching on screen. Not on YouTube's interface, inside the video window itself. Usernames appeared for a second, then shifted. Repelled. Not trustful guy. Loop nor MP4. Stream_shadow_7. Oh. And one by one they flickered into a new label. Banked. All caps. No avatars, just names. Replaced. The chat kept scrolling, but more and more users found their text blocked out. One by one, their own messages vanished the second they were sent. At the top of the stream, a new line appeared. This live stream contains voice patterns beyond normal human range. Please do not adjust your audio. Then came the final beat. Beyonce looked up, directly into the lens. Not smiling, not expressionless, just calm. She whispered, clear as anything. I don't need to sing to be heard. I just need you to listen once. The feed cut instantly. No outro, no fade. The screen went black. For a second, it looked like that was it. But 10 seconds later, the channel auto-uploaded a new video. Unknown track 0023. No thumbnail, no waveform preview, just a plain black rectangle. And for everyone who clicked it, the same silence, the same breath pattern. And that night, every single one of them heard the hum at 3:23 a.m. Some in their ears, some in their dreams. And some, the unlucky ones, heard it outside their window.